whatever that other thing's called, Fathom is working. I think everything looks like it's perfectly in order. Awesome. Welcome to the Women's Wellness Network. Welcome our viewers. Welcome you in the future. And welcome here, Marni Watson, our Women's Wellness Network moderator and my very longtime friend. Um, we won't tell the number of years, but we were teenagers and we were neighbors. And I love this woman in my heart, in my soul, always and forever. So welcome here, Marni. It is so lovely to have you here. Finally, I'm just going to say finally.
Thank you for having me. I'm very glad to be here.
So exciting. Yeah, it's exciting that you're here because yeah, you're like one of the first people that came on board with the Women's Wellness Network and you jumped right in. You invited your friends. You wanted to be a founder. You wanted to be in it. And you've been such a support. You said you're my moderator. I don't have anybody else on that team yet. And yeah, we've been friends for a very long time. And I know your heart. I feel your heart, even when I haven't seen you for a long time, because there's gaps, right? Life happens and we're doing our thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, but still in touch, still on the periphery, still always knowing what's happening and kind of what you're up to. So, for those people who are meeting you for the very first time, which is probably most of the Women's Wellness Network, not everybody, because you've definitely become you've become friends and I don't know, like a little bit of confidants with some of the people here on the Women's Wellness Network. And that is so amazing. But that's a testament to who you are. So, Marni, could you please tell us where you are in the world first, because that's super important, and who you are, what you're doing.
I am living currently considered Northern Vancouver Island in Camel River, British Columbia. And I've lived on the island, I guess, now for God since 2017. And it's pretty nice here. So if you haven't been, come on up.
Right? Oh my goodness, right?
Yeah,
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 I was even
totally.
blessed to live a little bit of time on Vancouver Island. My daughter lives in Victoria, and I lived in Nanaimo. And I think you had just moved there when I was just kind of leaving there, and we never
Yeah,
got to, connect in person. But it was another
yeah.
one of those little touchstones, right? Where we connect and we say, "Hey, what you doing? How's it going? What's going on in your world?" And
I
you have
remember.
been
Yeah.
doing, yeah, you've been doing some great work your whole life. As far as I can ever remember, you've always been, had other people's welfare in mind, in your heart, and you're one of the best people I know. I can just say that honestly. You're
Thank
a
you.
really good person. Well, you just
Thank
are,
you.
and you always have been. And the work that you do in the world really is reflected there. And yeah, why don't you share a little bit about, your career as it's gone so far?
Sure. I've worked in care, um, in and out of different, I don't know, spaces. I've done home support and I've worked in long-term care predominantly for most of my career, which is 25 years old. I worked in retail before that, and then I got into care. And then later on in life, when I moved to the island, I had actually a friend message me and said, "Oh my God, there's um, this beautiful company, this woman-owned and run beautiful company that runs out of Boulder, Colorado, and they're offering this training for death doulas and end-of-life doulas, and there's various different names." And so I looked into it slightly before I actually moved over here, and then I dug in a bit, and then I did take. There was a couple of phases to the training, and so I took them a bit apart, 2017, 2019, and then finished that, and knew like in that training, like, yeah, my world exploded. And and it just made it more concrete to help me know that ultimately I'll have to retire and not be able to look after people in long-term care, and also continue probably the most important work in long-term care, and that is end-of-life care. And I was always the person putting my hand up saying, hey, some people don't have family as they're in their dying, and I will stay. You don't have to pay me. I will stay and vigil by their bedside. And I did that a few times in the place that I worked in Nanaimo for a few years. I just thought, I mean, and I have different understandings now, especially about, dying alone. And, sometimes that's a choice of an individual. So, anyways, I was always that person that thought, oh my God, their family's not here and there's no friends, there's no visitors, they haven't had visitors, COVID, all that stuff. So I was always the person like, yep, I'll stay. And they were just like, okay, because nursing staff, it's busy, right?
Right? Yeah, they have
So
their own jobs. They're supposed to be doing their own uh,
yeah,
work.
yeah,
They're doing that thing, the medical part,
totally.
making sure, yeah, making sure all the
Yeah,
vitals are good and all the things. But
yeah,
the end of life care, because it is
yeah,
that, it's
yeah,
care. It's like
yeah,
helping them feel okay. And well, don't let me I'm not the expert.
yeah.
You are. Please tell us exactly what does a death doula do? What is the role? How does that look?
Well, they're described as, non-medical companions, right? And not taking hospices or palliative care's place. It's a wide range of holistic services. Um, and and so those are things where, you're the person that's actually staying in the room. So if someone's in care or at home and, people are busy, they're, have lives and, and there's young families and, you know, um, and some families, they manage all that stuff. And so that's what that is. You help, with issues that arise in someone's dying. And so that can be, like on my business card, it says, before, during, and after death. And people get diagnoses, and so they reach out, and some people don't have family, and so that's what death duels do. They help with all kinds of things so say if someone hired a death doula, they would get help with, like, legacy work, because to a lot of dying people, legacy work is super important. And what that means is, people want the world to know who they were. And if sometimes people don't have anyone to help them do that. And so a lot of legacy work, and you just help people, understand, um, you know, different facets of what's to come. So
Right. And
yeah,
also if you're doing legacy work, it's like finding those gold nuggets within their life that validate them, that make them feel like, yeah, I mattered and I did something and I was here and don't
yeah,
forget me, because that's important. Because I think a lot of people, right, they especially people who have nobody, they get
yeah,
alone and they feel afraid and they don't know, does it even make a difference that I was here on this planet?
right,
So
right,
do you help people in their homes? You go into hospice? How do you
totally,
like, yeah, all the
totally.
things?
And like I'll always, indicate when talking about this is that it's not a replacement for hospice care. It isn't hospice care, and it isn't the replacement of all the professionals, chaplains, nurses, doctors, social workers. It's a different role. And so it's an extension of the team. It's a collaborative thing, and it's a different thing than all those things. It's the emotional, you're going to be helping families, with things like, last days, right? Like, what does the last days look like for that person? How are you feeling about that? What do you want that to look like? And that's to the dying person, it's their decision. And sometimes, they're incapacitated. And so families would request, like, how do the last days look? What does the atmosphere look like? Like, what about the bedside? Who do we want at the bedside, right? The bedside is the most precious place, to be. And it is the most vulnerable place, that you could ever be in someone's dying. And so, you talk about that kind of stuff, and families, when they come up against it, they just don't even know how to move forward past, say, a diagnosis or something.
Yeah, there's a
So
lot of facets to that, right? Like from
yeah,
somebody like realizing, oh, I'm in decline and I'm not going to be here for long.
right, right,
What what actually happens? What next? Who do I talk
totally,
to? Right?
totally.
And the
And
family.
yeah,
I like that
yeah,
part, like that you have the after part also, because
yeah,
that's the thing, right? The people who are going, they know that there's going to be a lot of pain for the people that are left. So yeah,
yeah,
you've got to be that person, I think, in there, like smoothing
Yeah.
that waters.
Yeah. Yeah. And often you're there, like I kind of look at it, like I said before, the during, the dying, before, during, and after. So there's like a three-phase thing, right? And so, and into the second phase, you're supporting them, you're holding the vigil, and some families can't. They just, and as you know, through your life, and I'm talking to you right now, Tammy, and probably most of the people out there, is that, you know, at the end of the day, not every single person can sit and hold vigil to someone dying. It's just not everybody's cup of tea. And some people can't even walk through a hospital door or a hospice door or, into the home of someone dying. And so there's people that, help with that. And, you work collaboratively, with any service that's being held for that person and the family, like, hospice care coming into a home or in hospice care or palliative wards or long-term care, right? A lot of people don't even leave long-term care. I mean, it's like a gigantic, to me, it's almost like a gigantic um, palliative ward, because long-term care usually is, a place where you go and
Yeah,
you're old. You got usually dementias are involved, and so that doesn't usually end up very, very good. So yeah. So I mean, like I said, and then during the dying, like, you can do all kinds of things like, provide your physical presence, you can provide drumming, you can provide um, physical presence, like I said, the vigil, meditation, Reiki, storytelling, emotional support to the people that are in the room or not, or that need you to be there and they have to be out because they can't manage it or they're not there yet or they, whatever. You're helping them understand the signs and symptoms of what's coming, right? Because a lot of people don't have any idea and it's not their fault, right?
yeah, of
And
course.
yeah, and so, signs, synchronicities, things like that happen in dying, and sometimes people sit around in a great big circle and story tell and laugh like that person's, if they're not, awake, present, I believe that they're there. They are there and they're listening
Yeah,
to everything, right?
yeah,
And to just be respectful, and so to kind of, help people know that they're actually here with you, even though they're sleeping, they're hearing everything you say. And so, I help with, like, the dying alone thing. I'm going to touch on that. I have a story about that. My grandmother, my mom had died in 1994, and then my grandmother followed in 2000. And my sister and I, had come in from Abbotsford. I had, a young kid, and I came into Abbotsford, from Abbotsford, to visit her in Surrey with my sister Kelly, and we went to visit my grandmother, and she was dying, and her husband was there, and we showed up and he was there and she was still there. And he said, oh, he jumped up, he's like, oh my God, like it was an invitation. He's like, you guys are here now, so I can go. And we said, whatever you like, kind of thing, right? And so we got in there and he had left. And then so she seemed quite stable and all that. And you know so we decided that, we're going to go down and get a drink and come back up and visit for the evening. And we were gone like probably 5 minutes and she died. And so, and not to get into too much about her life with her husband, but dying people know what they want. They know how they want to go. They will leave when they want. It doesn't matter if you're coming from thousands and thousands of miles away and then you didn't make it, because I really believe that, or even just from Abbotsford to Surrey. But she died in the time between him leaving and us going down, getting a drink and coming back. And, you know, um, of course we were younger, right? And we were like beating ourselves up and stuff. And I really believe that, people choose their time, and she chose that time. She didn't want him there and she didn't want us there. She just wanted to go, and so I believe in that. So I wanted to share that story. And, holding
beautiful.
vigil sometimes, and people don't want to die with a bunch of people in the room. So,
Yeah, I
uh,
totally hear that. I
yeah,
totally get that 100%. It's a
yeah,
choice, it's a timing, it's a it's a thing. And because sometimes maybe it's easier when the person, their soul is alone, they're free, they're not,
Right.
they're thinking about themselves. They're only attached to themselves and in that
Right.
moment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's all you got to take with you. You don't have to take
Yeah.
all the other people.
Right, right. And then, and I'll just touch, you can, and I provide certain things and I'll touch that at the end of this conversation. But and then, with before, during, and after. So after, a death doula would help process emotions and and talk about the nature of what happened in the room, because often there's magic and it is sacred and very private. And some people don't look at it like that, but I mean, doulas know that it is very sacred and dying is very sacred. And so, you help people process if you're in the room with people, and people want to often talk about that after someone's gone. And then, you provide resources, to what the next step might be. And so, there's things like doulas look after things like green burial information, and there's just people are just like, what, like stuff like that, like you can be buried in a park, what, and there's no markers and it's just a forest. It's like, yes, you can. And it's really going that way. And you watch, everybody out there, you watch, because and I'm not disregarding the funeral you know, platform of death and dying. But let me tell you, the earth, we have to provide, good things to the earth. And, there's all kinds of aquamation, there's all kinds of things that you can do and that people want. And I think it's actually our generation, they're going to want more of that, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
um, yeah.
Yeah,
And
and I think that's like most people don't think about those things. They're thinking, okay, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna have this funeral, and that's it. Whatever
yeah,
happens. But
right.
there's options.
Yeah,
There's different ways of doing things. There's different ways of moving towards that. And
right.
I guess this must be something that you know, have a conversation with. Uh, if the person is still cohesive, I guess you would be able to
Yeah.
talk about that with them.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yes. Like, you know, um, you know, recently, just it like last summer, we found out, one of our dear friends got a diagnosis that was like, you know, not good. And so, making sure, and not everybody wants a doula, right? They have big families, or they are good, or you know what I mean?
they're
It-
fine.
yeah. And sometimes families are the ones that, think about the doula thing, right? But I mean, yes, yes, people get diagnoses, and sometimes people have doulas. I have a doula friend that often has clients that aren't even actually near their dying, and it's just something that, it's just like they know that it's coming and they don't know exactly when because they haven't been given that window, but they want to do the work. There's all kinds of things that you have to, think about, like you have to put your digital life away, and and that's not something that a lot of people think about. And so, yeah, when you attend school to be a doula, you get some fundamental stuff. And of course, a lot of the people that teach these doula courses are people that have had long, long careers with hospice and palliative care, nursing, and it's a specialized thing. And so when I went and did my training, my God, right? Like you're just blown wide open, right? You do some big work, getting that certification, and I just, I can't even believe that was that it's a thing, because I felt this way before I ever grabbed onto anything like this, you
Right.
know?
It was already kind of written in the stars for you, maybe somewhere in the back of your mind or something. You
Totally.
just were getting drawn there.
Totally. I mean, with
Yeah,
my father, my stepfather died when I was 19, and then, there's been a few family deaths, but I mean, I've been with a few family members, that have passed away. Been with my grandmother just right after she died. And literally, I mean, it was just minutes, right? You know, And so, yeah, knowing and then being in long-term care, I've had the opportunity to be with people. And, a lot of people in their life, they don't have families or anyone. And, we're there with them. And, it was all us kind of. And, the end of life, it's just like,
Lot.
care, care homes, man, they're busy and there's no time
Yeah.
to sit vigil. So I was just like, oh, well, I've got no plans tonight. I'll stay till whenever. Right. And so, yeah, it's just a calling that I just can't even believe that has kind of morphed for me. But
Right. Well, you couldn't have probably done all the things, be able to do these things that you're doing now if you hadn't done the things that you've done and gone through the things that you've gone through. And
yes,
you're like a bridge, right? You're like the rainbow bridge. You're like
totally.
helping people
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
from here to there,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like for them and their loved ones.
Yeah.
And there was one other thing. I'm like, oh, I need to say that. Oh darn, now I forget. Um, oh well, it'll come back. It'll come back. I don't know. It's all good. Oh, see, as soon as I stop thinking about it, it pops back in. So it feels like also this work can be done with people because everybody is going to die. This is part of our human experience. We are going to die. Whether you have experiences with that going along as you're going through your journey or not, I think understanding what it means, having a feeling for um, all the things that go around it on both sides, because we're going to leave and there are going to be people that are left behind, right? Dealing with that prior.
Yeah.
And why not start sooner rather than later, getting on that to say,
Yes.
hey, I want to do the work. I want to be prepared. I want to be
Yeah.
okay with me so that
Hmm.
when it's my time and when I decide, then I can go. And
Yep.
I mean, that's the beautiful part of your work. It's not just when you're laying in the bed at the end,
Right.
taking your last breath. It can be from this very moment forward to do the work, to understand what it's about. And yeah, what a beautiful gift that you offer. Like, I know it comes from your heart. And I've, experienced some losses with you in those earlier years. And yeah, you say that this is like you feel it's your calling, it's your path, it's you've kind of been zigzagging your way there, going with the flow, and now you're there. And yeah, I feel in my heart you are exactly where you need to be for yourself, but also for the rest of us.
You,
A lot of stuff, right?
it's a lot of stuff. And, people, especially when they do legacy work, sometimes people are estranged, with their families or parts of their families. And it's really hard, to be in your dying. It's very painful, to be estranged. And so the legacy work is huge because, a lot of those people that are, say, not part of that person's life, they'll do legacy work and then they'll be able to see afterwards. And it's a gift. It's a pure gift.
Yeah,
So,
because from there, right, you get some forgiveness, maybe you get some understanding, some different perspectives, all the
yep.
things that, yeah, right? Oh,
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's really healing for people, especially when it was say there's their choice not to be in someone's life or something, right? And so there's so many scenarios, with families and dynamics, and how it is for so many. I mean, no family is perfect, and so and a lot of people go through this life alone, and sometimes they do that like that, and so yeah, that's the before work, and it's a slog. It's hard and it's beautiful at the same time. So, um, it's a good thing. And then same with if you flip it right over to say after, you're still with these families. You make such amazing, incredible, sacred connections that you could never ever have ever thought that you would ever make.
yeah,
So
I can totally understand. Oh, the work you do is like it's divinely guided, like it really is, because you put yourself in that space of that grief and that compassion and sympathy, like all the things that can be possible and present in that moment. You get to be those things. You get to be peace. You get to be love. You get to be
Yeah.
kindness. You get to be, um, yeah, all the things. Because
Yeah.
in my mind, I think resonance is, I think it's the thing, to be honest. It's like whatever resonates from your being,
Yeah.
your energy that comes out of you in that moment with those emotions that you're um, feeling on the inside. Others feel that. We're all like antennas.
Yeah.
And when you can hold that sacred strength and
Mhm.
bring that peace and that love, that is, I don't know, there's not much else that can be so profound in those last moments of that person's life to give, to
Right.
honor them, right? And
Yeah,
to honor those who are left there.
it's true. And I love a good ritual. So I mean, I'm all into, you know, the oil therapy massage and drumming and just one thing that we when we were in doula school, we call it doula school, and people like me light up, just to be able to help anybody in any hard part of a dying. And we learned they actually made us they actually got us to place ourselves in our classmates' laps in holds, being held, like, say, in an example, say someone's, in hospice, and say they're a person that's been, alone for a very long time or whatever. And, the human touch, like, can be everything. And so they taught us how to place an adult, like, in on you or on the floor or in a bed. And we learned how to do that kind of sacred stuff. It's just amazing. And you can teach families how to do that because they're just like, oh, do I just get into bed with them? Or, you know, is it okay? And it's just like, you can completely spoon. You can, we can show you how to get in and wrap yourself completely around them so they feel held like a child, which is, the most beautiful thing that you can do for someone that's dying, in my opinion. So, that kind of stuff, yeah, you're the bridge, because sometimes people are frozen and they don't even know what to do or say. And it's a comfortable place to be, and sometimes they just want the doula to do it. Happens like that. There's 1,000 million scenarios.
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah,
Well, yeah, and there's like so many people who are meeting their ends, right? There's always somebody meeting their ends, or
there
always,
is.
it's that cycle, it's the thing, it's life, it's how it works. And to
Yeah,
be, um, yeah, have that cognizance of, hey, this is going to happen, and what are the ways that it can happen, and what are the ways that I can help facilitate that? You're the doula, you teach the members of the family or whoever might be around. Yeah, like probably a lot of compassion and love. I know you have those things inside of you. So as I was just saying, the resonance of you being present for people, um, they couldn't help but feel that and hold that for themselves. Because I know a lot of people think they don't know the difference between what they're feeling on the inside and what somebody else is presenting. So you
right.
holding that sacred space and being that person, that, yeah, it's totally like a bridge, right? You're like the spark plug that connects the two things. Yeah. To
That's
help
exactly
the,
right.
yeah, it's beautiful. Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
I came into contact when I lived in Nanaimo, when I was living in Ladysmith and worked in Nanaimo, and I was having this conversation at work one day, and this person said, "There's a group," and I'm gonna look into it after we get off this call. But anyway, there's a group that in the world, and there's chapters of this group, and you can start them. And what they do, you're just gonna be blown away. There's certain harmonious songs that this group sings at the ends of bedsides. Have you heard of that before?
No, but it sounds perfect.
Anyway, and it's just like any other chapter of anything like Eagles or whatever, um you know, there's a certain way they do it. And so anyways, I wish I had dug in and found out what that is, and maybe we can add that later. But anyway, what this group does is they get together, they learn the songs like a choir, and then they get called, and then they'll go to someone's bedside and sing with a family, or just sing the songs that say a person loved, or but yeah, they sing these certain songs with certain harmonies and stuff, and apparently it'll just wreck you.
My
Um,
word, I can just imagine. Oh, it must
but
be so magical.
yeah, but to be sure that, you know, when you're in your dying and you're very close, you know, you hear everything. And so to hear like angels singing, pardon, like, come on. So, and
Right?
I believe like about the whole dying alone thing, I believe, and I've learned through my learnings and teachings that, you know, when you're often, I think we all hear stories of people, you know, reaching up, like they're picking something out of the sky, and a lot of people, you know, say that, oh, that's just the morphine, or that's just the medication, or, you know, they're dreaming, they're sleeping, and so they're reaching up in a dream. And a lot of people to reach up with their hands, and I believe because I always say that when someone's in their dying away, there is like the room's full. And so this is kind of good to touch back on this, because when you leave that room, they are not by themselves. They're all the ancestors that were there before are there just hanging out, you know, gatekeeping, just waiting. And it's incredible. It's incredible. And I believe, so I just, and of course, you know, not dying alone, it's a thing, and I've touched on it a few times, I know, but you're not alone. You're never alone. Even when you're awake and in your living, you're not alone. So in your dying, there's more people in the room that you've ever even could have imagined, right? So I like that.
Right? Yeah, because that assists you also. And you know that, right? They're there. You're facilitating for all of them
Yeah.
between the worlds.
Yeah. And that's why I said the other day on that other call that, you know, I used to be afraid of dying, and you know, I'm not, things have changed for me in that regard, because I understand and believe a lot of different things now. And so it's comforting. And so it's nice to be able to share it. So
Beautiful. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Marnie. And
you,
people are always going, as we say. So if there are some people who would like to know more about you, have a better understanding about what a death doula does, and we touched on a lot of things here today. And I love your ways, you know, with the oils, with the Reiki, with the drumming. Like, what a beautiful send off! Like, amazing. So how can they reach you? How can our women get in touch with you?
I don't have a website currently, but I do have an email that's called paradigm end of life at Gmail. I
Okay.
have that email. So you can email me. You can reach out to me directly on Facebook. You can check out my Instagram, Paradigm End of Life. So yeah.
Okay, well, all right, women of the Women's Wellness Network, you can find Marnie's information in the comments. We're going to put it in there. Um, any other links I can think of, we'll definitely include those. Super, I don't even know. I've not had one of these conversations with a death doula before, and I've had lots of, you know, how does it work? What's all the things? So you've come here, you've answered a bunch of things for me personally, and yeah, I appreciate your space in the world and what you are doing to help other people transition from here to there because we're all going there. So yeah, I honor you and I respect
You.
you immensely and
Thank
love
you.
you dearly, dearly.
And I you. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful conversation.
Yeah, fabulous. Okay, Women of the Women's Wellness Network. You will see Marnie here again sometime. I'm pretty darn sure. So until then, until next time, be well. Thank you, Marnie.
You all.